let's start. So exercise 1H, this is the last exercise for chapter 1. And remember, I told you next week you will have a progress sort of test to see where you're sort of at. But it also just more consolidating for me when I'm filling out your readiness checkpoints where I think you're roughly at. So the skills that you demonstrate in your homework and the skills that you demonstrate in test conditions, that also tells me a lot about you. So one of the things I look for in your homework is your layout. Your layout tells me a lot about your thinking. All right, here we go. Let's have a look. So last exercise of chapter 1, orders of operation of integers. We may or may not have seen BODMAS in the past. It used to be called BODMAS. I believe some primary schools may change it and they call it BIDMAS instead. Okay, so instead of O, it's an I. Now, I wrote down the answer for O, which is order, just because a lot of students didn't understand that. That's why they changed it to I. But let's remember, what does B stand for? Can I please have Tom? Brackets. Fill it in. So we're going to write brackets. And then I want you to draw the symbol to remind you. So we've got brackets we're going to do first. Okay, this is the first thing you're going to do. Then O, which stands for order. What does order mean, Ashwin? That's okay. Order could also mean indices, which is what the I stands for now. But if we don't understand what indices are, we could also call it powers. So what is powers?
Like squared?
Yes, squared, cubed. So the little number on top of a value. So for example, here's an example. If I wrote 2 cubed, that does not mean 2 times 3. 2 times 3 is 6. What does 2 cubed mean, Elizabeth? Very good. This is repeated multiplication by 3 times. That's what the little power means, and that's what order means. Okay, so that's why they've changed, well, some schools change it to BIDMAS to help students remember what I or O or powers mean. And then the next 2, most students will remember. So this is your order number 2. What's D and M? Let's go with someone new. Liam? Good. So this is division, and this is multiplication. Now, multiplication and division are opposites of one another, so they are the same type of operation or ranking. So I like to highlight this to help students understand. This is operation. Third one that you do, it just goes whichever comes first, so left to right. Okay, so it doesn't matter which one you do first. You do left to right. Okay, so if you see a lot of divisions and multiplications, stick to left and right. So this is your division symbol. This is your multiplication symbol. And your last one, A&S, Ashwin?
Addition and subtraction.
Addition and subtraction. Very good. So addition, subtraction. Again, they are opposites of one another. And because they're opposites, the ranking is also the same. So A&S come together. This is rank number 4. And again, it is left to right. Okay? Left to right. I put a number line there because yesterday you learnt exercise 1F. And for some of us, we might still be working with negative numbers. And so the number line there is just to help you visually. But that's the order we're going to work with today. Okay? So the reason why I want you to copy 1, 2, 3, and 4 is because when we get to term 3, we're going to do algebra. And when we do algebra, I like to teach the students we're undoing the process, so we go backwards. So instead of BODMAS, we actually do SAM-DOB, which is backwards. SAM-DOB, that's for term 3. Okay, but just to help you understand the order, that's what we're doing in term 1. We'll build up your skills for 1, 2, 3, 4, and then by term 3, we go backwards and we do 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay? Let's start an example for today. So here we go. Let's look at the first example. Example 1, we've got 4 times bracket 2 minus 6. So again, BODMAS, I'm just going to write on the side to remind you. So BODMAS. Here we go. Which one comes first in this expression that you can see? Let's go, Sienna. What do you see? Brackets. So brackets is meant to come first, and I do see that they have brackets here. So this is my brackets. So in your exercise, what do I want to see? Question, method, answer, right? Vertical layout. So here's your question. I want you then to write the next line. So copy exactly what you see. So this is a 4, so 4 is there. Next one is a times. But because we're dealing with brackets first, we first look at the brackets. And what do we have? 2 minus 6. is negative 4. Very good, Ashwin. So this here is negative 4, and therefore we no longer have the brackets because we figured out what this bracket is. So inside the brackets, 2 minus 6 on your number line. If it helps, look at the number line. So look at the number line. 2 minus 6. So you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You can see it goes back to negative 4. Okay? So now that you've got the brackets gone, then you go through BODMAS again. Right now, we've got 4 times negative 4. Is that times first, or is it the negative here, Lucas? Which one comes first? Times or that negative? Orders of operation, so... No, not the negative. So I was trying to say is that we're up to multiplication. So you can see that becomes 4 times negative 4. What I don't want students to think is that's 4 take away 4. Yeah? So when I ask you which one was coming first, you follow the order. We can see that brackets come first, and then any indices before division, multiplication, addition, subtraction. So out of subtraction and multiplication, you can see the order. Multiplication comes first. Yeah? So it comes before subtraction. So in this case here, we then do 4 times negative 4. So going back to exercise 1G, Leon, what's 4 times negative 4? Negative 16, very good. Again, for those who've forgotten or haven't done 1G, times the numbers first. So 4 times 4 is 16. And then you work out the signs. You say, well, this is a positive and this is a negative. Remember, this is different to yesterday's lesson. Positive times a negative. Positive, negative gives you an overall negative. Okay, that's different to how we did yesterday. Yesterday was about direction. You needed to know which direction you're going. This one you don't. Okay? All right, let's do a second one now. B. Let's do it. Same thing again. BODMAS. Which one comes first? Let's go with man. Brackets. So here, unlike this one, we can actually work out 2 minus 6. In the brackets over here, what do we have inside the brackets, Ava? Negative 3. So that's literally what you write. So here, I copy everything down again. It's minus 6. This is still a minus 2. That's still a times. But inside the brackets, all I have is negative 3. So I've done the first step. BODMAS, I've got rid of the brackets. There's no more brackets. And inside the brackets, just negative 3. Just like you did over here. Inside the brackets was negative 4. Now from this step, there's no more brackets. So what is my next operation? Let's go with Sully.
Your next operation. So it's the negative 2 times negative 3.
Good. Okay, now this is where... Yes, that's right. That's what I was going to say. So when I teach my students, I do actually think of it as negative 2 times negative 3, but technically that is not a negative 2. That is a minus. This actually means negative 6 minus 2 times negative 3. So that's why when you're timesing, technically it's 2 times the negative 3, and that's a minus operation. Okay, so that's what I was saying yesterday. There's a difference between minus and then a negative number, right? So that's minusing positive 2. So here we know that next one is multiplication. That's our next order. So we can see 2 times negative 3. We need to work that out. But before we do, I want you to practice rewriting the line again. So you've got negative 6. You still have a minus, but you're trying to work out what 2 times negative 3 is now. 2 times negative 3. Let's go with, who would I choose? Let's go Haushwan. Good. It is 6. 2 times 3 is 6. But keep in mind that I'm just working with this number here. So that's a positive 2. And then this is a negative 3. So positive 2 with a negative 3. Positive, negative gives you an overall negative. Can you see what I'm doing there? I kept the minus sign. It's still here. Negative 6 is still there. And I just worked out 2 times negative 3 is negative 6. Now, I know some of you that are really strong at it, you would have figured out that minus and negative is positive. And so that's why you would have said positive 6. Okay, but I'm taking it step by step so you can see. So from here, this is now exercise 1F, what you did yesterday. We know that if you subtract a negative number, that's like saying go to the left, but the opposite of left is? Right. But if you're going to the right, you might as well just rewrite this operation. Instead of saying minus a negative, it was easier to say negative 6 plus 6, because plus means goes to the right. Okay, so that's left. Opposite of left is right. Well, that just means right. So this is easier to read. Final answer. Let's go, Ashwin. 0. Very good. Negative 6 plus 6 is then 0. That's exercise 1E. Can you see all the skills that we've been doing so far ties in with each other? 1E, 1F, 1G. Yeah, so multiplying is 1G. This is yesterday, working with double negatives there. That's 1F. This is 1E because you don't have the double signs. And then you get your final answer. So if you've done your homework of each week, you start to build up the skills to do this. Okay? All right, let's do the next one. So as we move down, it gets a bit harder. The last one is really hard, just because there's a fraction in it. But let's see. Let's do C first. Bud mass again. I'm going to write it again here. Bud mass. Which one comes first in this group here? Can I please have Tilly? Brackets. And inside the brackets, what do I have? Negative 4. So I rewrite the whole line again. I've got a 4. I've got a minus. I've got a 2 cubed. I've got a division. And I know this is negative 4. So I've done brackets. Comes first. Good. I've done brackets. In my second line, which one comes next? Let's go with Wilbur. Which one comes next now? Order. Very good. So order is anything to do with indices or powers. And we can see I've got a 2 cubed. Okay, now remember 2 cubed does not mean 2 times 3. A lot of students write 6. 2 cubed means 2 times 2 times 2. What's 2 times 2 times 2? Let's go with Colleen.
8.
8. Very good. So I'm going to rewrite the whole line again. That's a 4 still stays there. So the 4 is still there. The minus sign is still there. I've just worked out the next one. So 2 cubed is 8. I still have the division, and then I still have a negative 4. Let's work it out. Which order comes next? Division. Very good. So next one is now division or multiplication. And I can see this is what I do next. So I've got the division. So that means it's 8 divided by negative 4. The minus sign is still there. Okay, this is an operation, not a negative. So that's 8 divided by negative 4. So let's work that out. What's 8 divided by negative 4? Let's go back to Lucas. Very good. So you do the numbers first. 8 divided by 4 is 2. And then check the sign. So here, this is a positive 8. That's a negative 4. Positive and negative gives you a negative. So you're back to exercise 1F again. We don't like subtract and negative. That gets confusing for us. So read it. Subtract means going to the left, but negative means do the opposite of that. So opposite of left is right. So what's another operation for saying right? Addition. So right here, this is where you then say that's the same thing as saying 4 plus 2, which is much easier than reading that line. Okay, that's what exercise 1F was trying to train you to do. This is easier. Because 4 plus 2 is what? Let's go with Edison. Yeah. And that's my order. Okay, so you can see each skill. That's again 1G, 1F, 1E. Yeah, E, F, G, and this is H at the moment. So each one requires you to know certain skill. Now the last one. This one is a bit trickier. So you've got to copy these notes carefully, okay? Here we go. I've got a double brackets there. So again, BODMAS, we're going to work with brackets first. What's inside the brackets? I've got negative 7 minus a negative 5, right? Very good. So I want you to write down that minus a negative is the same thing as saying, left and then opposite of left is right. So it's plus, so it should be negative 7 plus 5. But notice I'm going to keep the brackets because I still haven't figured out what that result is. So I'm going to still keep the brackets there. I've just made my life a bit easier. I'm going to highlight that to make it easier to see. So minus a negative was easier to work out by saying negative 7 plus 5. Keep everything else the same. The root 16 is still there. Divide 8 is still there. And the times is still there. I still need to work out what negative 7 plus 5 is. What's negative 7 plus 5? Let's go with Kyle. Negative 7 plus 5 is equal to negative 2. So I then rewrite this. I say, well, that's negative 2. I've got root 16, which is still there. I still have divide 8. And I still have a times. But I've got rid of all the brackets. So step 1's done. Do I have any order? Powers?
Yes.
Yes, I technically do. Doesn't look like it, but it is. Which one is that? It's the 16. What? Do you happen to know what the power is, Liam? Yes, very good. And the opposite of square, this is for year 9 stuff for you to understand. For those who want to know, you don't have to know this. But the power for a square root, if you want to do it on your calculator, if you did 4 squared, we know that's 16, yeah? If you want to square root 16, but you don't have a square root symbol, you can actually do this. You can do 16 to the power of a half. It's the reciprocal or the opposite. Like if you flip 2 as a number is 2 over 1. So if you flip it, it becomes half. If you type 16 to the power of half, it should give you 4 because it also means square root. Yeah, you can just do the sign. It's just that when you start doing things like 7th root. So how do you do the 7th root of 16? On your calculator, you can actually do 16 to the power of 1/7. That's what the power means. Okay, so square root is 1 over 2. Cube root is 1 over 3. 7th root is 1 over 7. So that's why that square root symbol is part of order. Okay, it's an indices. So that's something that you don't need to know. It's just something I thought I'd mention in case you didn't know that. All right. So in our case here, let's rewrite it back. So we're going to the next one. It is root 16. What is the square root of 16? Can I please have? Yes, Ashwin. Not 8. It's not halving. So you got to think what number times what number? So itself. You got to times itself to give you 16. What number is that, Ashwin? 4. 4 times 4 gives you 16. So here, right down there, that becomes a 4. You got divide 8 times -2. Now this is where students will make a mistake. So this is where I said you got to be careful with this one. So what's the next operation that you can see here, Elizabeth? 4 divided by 8. So because there's a division and a times, remember I told you got to work from left to right. Here's the problem. What do you think a lot of students would write when I say, what's 4 divided by 8? What do you think most students would say? Yeah. Most students will think 8 divided by 4 because that's easier. So they'll tell me this is 2, but it's not. What's 4 divided by 8 truly? Half. Okay, because 4 divided by 8. Write this as a note in case you didn't know. 4 divided by 8 is like you saying 4 over 8. That's what it means. The 4 comes first, so it's in the numerator. 8 is second, so it goes in the denominator. 4 over 8 as a fraction is the same thing as writing half. Or if you did exercise 1A, you can actually rewrite that as how many 8s fit into 4, and you'll see it goes in 0 times. Carry on with the next 4, so 8 into 40 is 5, so it's 0.5. Okay, so here we've got now, sorry, that must be my phone. I'm just going to silence it if I can. We do it here. Here we go. All right, so we've got now 4 divided by 8 technically is a half or a 0.5 times -2. I don't like using decimals. I'm going to keep it as a fraction. So half times -2. Now, this is the same skill that we've done so far. That's a number times a number. That's a positive number here. That's a positive half, and this is a negative. So when you're timesing, let's work it out. What's half of 2? What's half of 2? Leon? Is 1. Okay, so I know a lot of students may not have learnt the fractions well yet, so that's okay. But the language we're saying is half of 2. We know the answer is 1. But be careful with the signs. This is positive, negative, and you're timesing. Positive, negative gives you negative. So the answer is -1. Okay, so that's the only part that I think students might get wrong. And I don't think your textbook will have that. I just made it up to challenge you. So that's as hard as it'll get, but that's why order matters. So going from left to right. Yeah? I'm going to zoom out, and this is pretty much what you need to know. Listening, eyes and ears towards the board, boys. Thank you. This is what you need to know for fluency. Turn over to the next page. I only just want you to copy the notes, which is on the top part, okay? You don't need to solve the bottom part unless you're willing to or want to. Just this bit here. Note when 2 letters or a letter and a number are written next to each other. So for example, 3A or 2AB, what does that mean? So when you say 3A, What's actually happening between the 3 and the A, Elizabeth? 3 times A is correct. So write this down. 3A is the same thing as saying 3 times A. We're just too lazy to write the times. Now, the next one, not all students will understand this bit or get it right. What do you think then 2AB should mean? What should that mean? You want to go? Very good. So if that's what you thought, that is correct. It is 2 times A times B. We're just too lazy to write 2 times A times B. It's easier just to write 2AB. Okay, so that's just what you know when you start doing these type of questions in exercise. If they write AB, it means A times B. If they write 3A, it means 3 times A. We're just too lazy to put the times. And the reason why we're too lazy is because in mathematics, we do a lot of multiplication. That's why you needed to know your multiplication tables in primary school. Okay, it's one of those skills that we use quite often. And then we use indices to shorten the amount of times we multiply things together. That's why we learn indices. Okay? All right. I'm going to stop there. That's all you needed to know for today. So that's the notes. And you've got the examples just above. If you want to have a go, these are pretty much me making them up. But it's the same thing as your fluency skills in the problem solving section. Okay? All right. I'll stop there and I'll come around and help you. And you've also got Manpreet to help you out today too.